Hillary Clinton wasn't the only loser in this past election. Pollsters had an equally bad night this week. NBC News Chairman Andy Lack said it's time for a change and that NBC will reevaluate how polls are used in its coverage. He's also promising to assign more reporters to states like Michigan and Ohio. So the question here in our lightning round for all of you panelists is it time for the news people, news operations to get out of the polling business?
I wish they'd stop every day, every second telling me what the poll is. So if that is the question, yes. I do think that there are people whose job it is to do this, and it comes down to the interpretation. And if you're doing it every second, every day, and that's not your primary job, bound to get some wrong stuff. That's where I feel.
I think it is very easy to overreact to a polling miss in this election because, the national polling average was 3%. The final popular vote margin was 2.1. We had state polls that had very serious problems, but I would be very much opposed to some sort of unilateral decision that we're no longer going to look at data and look at numbers. It's an important part of the report.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stop doing it every 2 seconds.
Right. Okay, her question.
Okay, all right, good.
I think polls are good, but I've always felt that polls shouldn't drive the coverage, but that coverage should then be backed up with the polls. And I think that's what we need to do. It costs a lot more money to send reporters out to every single state and every particular city that's important in a race. But I think you have to do that. And you go out and you find out what people are saying on the ground, and you report on it, and then you supplement that with the polls.
Yeah, they're admitting, Andy Lack went on with some length to say he admitted that they didn't have enough people on the ground.
And you need to make the financial commitment for that, though.
Right.
Jennifer?
I think
polls, no polls.
Well, I like reading the polls. I
too.
like comparing and contrasting the polls. I think they need to do a better job in their state polls with accuracy, but whether or not they continue to have them is a business decision.
Yeah.
But I enjoy hearing those numbers and looking
I
at
agree.
them on a
I
frequent
like polls,
basis.
and I think they can be valuable. There are so many different kinds of polls.
Yes.
And people,
Right.
there's just a
Right.
blur, as you know, because a lot of these websites do aggregate polling,
Right.
but you're aggregating. They've got the tracking polls,
And we
which
didn't report on the tracking polls.
those take a snapshot every day,
Exactly.
but your group rolls.
But at the same time that we had,
sometimes it's the same
in
group,
this past
so many-
election, we had many more national polls
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, those kinds of things, but fewer state polls.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those state polls were paid for by local news
Exactly.
organizations,
I
and
know.
they don't have money anymore. So in Ohio, the Columbus Dispatch used to do 7 or 8 polls during the year. This year they did 1, and they got it wrong. If they were doing more of it, then you could imagine they would be able to react to, respond to the data a little bit more reasonably.
But it's a state-based electoral system, and so that's
As we
where,
found out this year,
right,
yes.
that's where they need to
Yes.
focus their energy, and they do need more reporters on the ground to talk to actual voters.
And the problem
The
with
New York
polls,
Times has said that too. Dean
Yeah,
Baquet has said the
absolutely.
same thing.
And I think what happens with polls, it used to frustrate me. You're out there, you're working on a story, and then you get some directive. Well, this
The
poll
executive
says,
producer, exactly.
right, we need, and polls create horse races.
I know.
And it's just this race. Oh, guess who's up? Guess who's down? Why don't we just report the
Producers
story?
love
They
polls.
love polls. It's kind of the go-to.
Oh, you got to lead
right?
the story tonight. Dan, don't forget the poll.
Start off. Latest poll says
Exactly.
so-and-so is up. But what we found on the ground, it
And
was
there were so
frustrating
many,
doing that all the time.
it failed to have some meaning.
That's the
Right,
truth.
exactly.
That
So
was
wasn't
the
that, Josh was just saying they were pretty accurate in the end. Yeah, but how could you tell? There was
couldn't.
billions of things
Yeah.
coming at you at once.